When my husband's pregnant mistress showed up at my door 6 months ago, crying and desperate, everyone expected me to slam it in her face. Instead, I smiled. I opened the door wider, and I said, "Come in, dear, we need to talk." She thought I was insane. My neighbors thought I'd lost my mind. My own sister called me a fool. But 3 months later, when my husband Richard stood in divorce court, broke, humiliated, and utterly destroyed, everyone finally understood. I wasn't insane. I wasn't a fool. I was patient. And patience, my friends, is the most devastating weapon in existence. My name is Margaret Wilson. I'm 62 years old. I was married for 35 years to a man I thought I knew. But I didn't know him at all. This is the story of how I turned my husband's pregnant mistress into my greatest ally. How together we took everything he had: his money, his business, his reputation, his freedom, and how I smiled through every single second of it. But before I tell you about that moment at my door, I need to take you back to where it all began. Back to when I was young, naive, and desperately in love with a man who would betray me in the worst way possible. Let me take you back to 1985. I was 22 years old, fresh out of university with a degree in accounting. I was smart, ambitious, and ready to conquer the world. That's when I met Richard Wilson. He was 25, tall, charming, confident. He worked at his father's construction company. Not just worked, he was being groomed to take it over someday. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue. He made me laugh. He listened when I talked about my dreams. He said, "You're going to be someone important, Margaret. I can tell." I fell hard, fast. We dated for 2 years. He proposed in 1987. I was 24. He got down on one knee in Central Park and said, "Margaret, I want to build a life with you. Not just a marriage, a partnership." I said yes. We married 3 months later. Small wedding, just family and close friends. I wore my mother's dress. He cried when I walked down the aisle. I thought, this is it. This is my forever. For the first 15 years, we were a team. I worked as an accountant at a mid-sized firm. Richard took over his father's construction business in 1990. When his dad retired. And I helped him. Every single step. I managed the company's finances for free. I was his wife. I built the accounting systems that made the business profitable. I entertained clients at dinner parties. I sacrificed my own career advancement to support his. When the business almost went bankrupt in 1995, I saved it by restructuring the debt. By 2002, Richard's company was worth $3 million. By 2010, it was worth $5 million. And you know what Richard said to me? "Maggie, you've worked so hard. It's time for you to retire. Enjoy life. You deserve it." I was 47 years old. I thought, what a wonderful, generous husband I have. I retired. I trusted him completely. And that was my first mistake. We never had children. We tried for years. Doctors said my chances were less than 5%. It broke my heart. But Richard held me while I cried and said, "We don't need kids, Maggie. We have each other. That's more than enough." So I poured all my love, all my energy, all my devotion into him, into our marriage, into the life we were building. What a waste. For years, everything seemed perfect. We had a beautiful house, financial security, a solid marriage, or so I thought. But in 2018, when I was 55 years old, things started to change. Small things, subtle things, things that, looking back, were screaming red flags. It started small. Richard started working late. At first, it was once a week, then twice, then 3, 4 times a week. He'd come home at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., sometimes 11 p.m. Me, long day? Richard, you have no idea, this new project is killing me. But he didn't look tired. He looked energized. Then came the physical changes. He joined a gym, never cared about fitness before in 33 years of marriage. He started dressing better, new suits, expensive ties. He bought new cologne, Giorgio Armani, $150 a bottle. He got a new haircut, stylish, younger looking. He bought a BMW convertible, his midlife crisis car, he joked. I said, "Richard, this car is a bit much, don't you think?" He said, "Maggie, I'm 58 years old. I've worked my whole life. I deserve to enjoy it." But the biggest red flag was his phone. Suddenly, his phone was always face down. If it buzzed, he'd grab it quickly, check it, then put it away. If I walked into the room, he'd close whatever he was looking at. One night, I asked, "Who keeps texting you?" He said, "Just work stuff, you know how it is." Yeah, I knew how it was. Every sign, every change, he had an excuse. Working late? The business is expanding. New clothes? I need to look professional for clients. Gym membership? Doctor said I need to lose weight. Secret phone calls? Just boring work stuff, honey. And for a while, I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to believe him. But then came the night that changed everything. December 2017. We were in bed. Richard was asleep. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. I don't know what possessed me. I'd never checked his phone before. Never. But something told me. Look, so I did. I picked up his phone, typed in his passcode, our anniversary, how ironic. Opened his messages. Top of the list. Sophia. The message said, "Missing you already. Can't wait for tomorrow night. I love you." I stared at those words for what felt like an hour. Then I scrolled up. Months of messages, hundreds of them. "I love you. You make me so happy. I can't wait to be with you. She doesn't understand me like you do." He was talking about me. I wanted to wake him up, scream at him, throw the phone at his face, but I didn't. Instead, I took a deep breath. I put the phone back exactly where it was, and I lay there in the dark, thinking. If I confronted him now, he'd lie. He'd gaslight me. He'd make me feel crazy. No, I needed proof, real proof, undeniable proof. So the next morning, I smiled at him over breakfast and said, "Have a great day, honey." And then I hired a private investigator. His name was Tom Mitchell, former police detective, now ran a private investigation firm. I found him online. 5-star reviews, discreet, expensive. I called him from my car in a parking lot. Tom. "Mrs. Wilson, what can I do for you?" Me. "I think my husband is cheating. I need proof." Tom. "How long do you think it's been going on?" Me. "I don't know. Months? Maybe longer?" Tom. "Okay, I'll need some information. Name, workplace, schedule, vehicle description, and I'll need a retainer, $3,000 up front." I transferred the money that afternoon. Tom started following Richard immediately. For 2 weeks, I heard nothing. Then Tom called. "Tom, Mrs. Wilson, we need to meet. I have something to show you." I sat across from Tom in his office, manila folder on the desk between us. Tom. "Before I show you these, I need to prepare you. This isn't going to be easy to see." Me. "Just show me." He opened the folder. Photo 1. Richard and a young woman having lunch at an expensive restaurant. They're holding hands across the table. Photo 2. The same woman, Asian, beautiful, maybe late 20s. She's laughing at something he said. Photo 3. Richard and the woman kissing in a parking lot. Photo 4. Them entering a luxury apartment building together. Photo 5. Them coming out 3 hours later. Her hair is messy. He's adjusting his tie. I stared at those photos for a long time. Tom. Her name is Sophia Chen, 25 years old. She's a secretary at your husband's company. They've been seeing each other for at least 8 months that I can confirm, possibly longer. Me. What else? Tom. What do you mean? Me. I want to know everything. Where they go, what they do, how much he spends on her. I want every detail. Can you do that? Tom. Yes, but it'll take time, and it won't be cheap. Me. I don't care about the cost. I want to know everything. For the next 3 years, Tom followed Richard and Sophia. And I learned things that made me physically sick. Richard rented a luxury apartment for Sophia, $30,500 a month. He bought her a Mercedes, $65,000. He took her on business trips to Hawaii, Cabo, Paris, total cost over $100,000. He bought her designer bags, jewelry, clothes, estimated $50,000. He paid off her student loans, $35,000. Total spent on Sophia, approximately $400,000 over 3 years, $400,000 of our money. Money I helped him earn, money I managed and invested. He told her he loved her. Tom recorded conversations. He told her I was cold and didn't understand him. Lies. He promised to leave me. More lies. He said he was just waiting for the right time. The biggest lie. Tom discovered something else. Sophia wasn't the first. Tom dug deeper. Found evidence of 4 other affairs before Sophia, Jennifer, 2015, 2016. Secretary at his company, got pregnant. Richard paid for an abortion, $5,000, then fired her and paid her $50,000 to disappear. Lisa, 2016-2017. Client's daughter, 22 years old. Richard showered her with gifts. She wanted a relationship. He ghosted her. Amanda, 2017-2018. Another secretary. He loaned her $30,000 for her mother's medical bills, then used the debt to control and manipulate her. She eventually left the company quietly. Rachel, early 2018. Overlapped briefly with Sophia. He dumped her when Sophia came along. 5 women, 5 affairs, over 6 years. And I had been completely blind. People ask me, Margaret, why didn't you just divorce him immediately? Why wait 3 years? Here's why. I'm an accountant. I understand numbers, assets, leverage. If I'd divorced him in 2018, he could have hidden assets, he could have claimed business losses, he could have dragged it out in court for years. I'd have gotten maybe 40–50% of marital assets. But if I waited, if I gathered overwhelming evidence, if I built an airtight case, I could take everything. So that's what I did. For 3 years, I documented every affair, saved every photo, recorded every conversation, legal in our state, copied every bank statement and credit card receipt, built a case so strong that no judge, no lawyer, no jury could deny it. And through it all, I smiled. I played the perfect wife. Every morning, I made his coffee. Every evening, I asked about his day. Every night, I said, I love you, and died a little inside. Christmas 2018, I bought him an expensive watch. He kissed me. I love you, Maggie. Valentine's Day 2019, he brought me roses. You're the only woman I need. Our anniversary 2020, he took me to dinner. Best 33 years of my life. Every single word a lie. But I smiled, and I collected evidence, because I knew something Richard didn't. The bomb I was building would destroy his entire life. I just needed the perfect moment to detonate it. That moment came on December 10th, 2021, the company Christmas party. Richard's company rented out a fancy hotel ballroom, 150 people. Employees, clients, business partners, spouses, open bar, catered dinner, live band. I wore my best dress, did my hair, put on my pearls. I was the perfect trophy wife. Richard and I arrived together. He put his hand on my lower back as we walked in. Richard, you look beautiful tonight, Maggie. Me, thank you, darling. We mingled. I smiled. I made small talk. And then I saw her. She was across the room, wearing a tight red dress, hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless. She was talking to a group of young employees, laughing, confident. She looked at Richard. He looked at her. They smiled at each other, and everyone saw it. At 8 p.m., Richard stood up to give his annual speech. He tapped his glass. Everyone quieted down. Richard, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's been an incredible year for the company, record profits, amazing projects, and none of it would have been possible without this incredible team. Everyone clapped. Then he said, I especially want to thank my assistant, Sophia Chen, for her exceptional support this year. He looked directly at her. She blushed, smiled. Everyone noticed. I heard whispers around me. Did you see that? Is that his secretary? She's so young. Oh my God, do you think? Definitely. Look at how he's looking at her. The wives were glancing at me, pitying me. The husbands were uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact. After the speech, Linda Hutchinson, wife of Richard's business partner, came up to me. Linda put her hand on my arm, gave me that sympathetic head tilt. Linda, Margaret, honey, are you okay? Me, of course, why wouldn't I be? Linda, if you ever need to talk, woman to woman, I'm here. She knew, they all knew, and they pitied me. Poor, naive Margaret, the oblivious wife. I excused myself, went to the bathroom, stood in front of the mirror, and I looked at myself. Really looked. 62 years old, gray hair, wrinkles, wearing pearls and a dress trying to compete with a 25-year-old in red. And I thought, enough. No more waiting. No more playing nice. It was time. I pulled out my phone, called Tom. Me. Tom, it's time. I need you to do one final thing. Tom. What do you need? Me. Find out if Sophia is pregnant. If she is, that's our opening. Tom. You think she might be? Me. Call it a hunch. Tom called me 2 weeks later. Tom. Mrs. Wilson. She's pregnant. About 8 weeks along. Perfect. Tom sent me photos. Sophia going into an OB/GYN clinic, coming out with prenatal vitamins, and he sent me audio recordings of her and Richard arguing outside her apartment. Sophia, crying. Richard, I'm pregnant. Richard, angry. You need to take care of it. Sophia, take care of it? It's your baby. Richard, I can't. I have a wife, Sophia. Sophia, you said you'd leave her. You promised. Richard, I lied, okay? Jesus Christ, use your brain. You think I'm going to leave my wife for you? Sophia, you told me you loved me. Richard, I say a lot of things. Figure it out yourself. I'm done. I listened to that recording 3 times, and each time I felt 2 things: rage at Richard, pity for Sophia. After that fight, Richard cut Sophia off completely, stopped paying her rent, blocked her number, stopped going to the office, started working from home, avoided her entirely. Sophia tried everything, called him 200+ times, blocked, showed up at the office, security escorted her out, emailed him, no response, texted from different numbers, blocked immediately. Tom showed me surveillance footage of her sitting in her car outside the office building, crying. She was alone, pregnant, abandoned, desperate, just like Richard had done to Jennifer, to all of them. I watched this unfold for 6 months. Tom gave me daily updates. Sophia's family cut her off. Traditional conservative family, unmarried pregnancy, sorry, shame. She got evicted from the luxury apartment Richard had rented, stopped paying. She moved into a cheap studio. She was barely scraping by. And through it all, Richard acted like nothing happened. He'd come home, kiss me on the cheek. How was your day, Maggie? And I'd smile and say, lovely, dear. June 15th, 2022. I was home alone. Richard was at the actual office for once, 2:30 p.m. Doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Sophia, 7 months pregnant, crying, mascara running down her face, desperate. This was it. This was my moment. I opened the door. Sophia looked up, saw me, froze. Sophia, panicking. Oh my God, Mrs. Wilson, I'm so sorry. I was looking for Richard. I didn't know. I'll go. She turned to leave. Me. Sophia, wait. She stopped, turned back. Me. He's not here. But I think you and I need to talk. Sophia, terrified. I can't. Me. Do you have anywhere else to go? Sophia, tears flowing. No. Me. Then come inside. Sophia stared at me like I'd just sprouted a second head. Sophia, you want me to come inside? Your house? Me. Yes. Sophia. Why? Me. Because we have something in common, Sophia. Sophia. What? Me, smiling coldly. We both hate Richard Wilson. I stepped aside, held the door open. Sophia hesitated, but she was desperate. She had nowhere else to go. So she came inside. I sat her down on my couch, made her a cup of herbal tea, caffeine-free for the pregnancy. She sat there, hands shaking, holding the cup. Sophia. Mrs. Wilson, I don't understand. Why are you being nice to me? Me. Oh, I'm not being nice, dear. I'm being strategic. Sophia. What? Me. Tell me something, Sophia. Did Richard ever mention other women before you? Sophia, confused. What? No. He said I was the only one. He said you didn't understand him, that the marriage was dead. Me. He lied. I pulled out a folder from my coffee table drawer. The folder Tom had given me years ago. I handed it to Sophia. Me. Open it. Sophia opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside, photos, bank statements, timelines, photos of Richard with Jennifer, with Lisa, with Amanda, with Rachel, bank statements showing payments to all of them. Sophia. Who are these women? Me. Your predecessors. You're number 5, Sophia. Sophia, shaking her head. No, that's not. He told me I was special. He said he loved me. Me. He told all of them that. I walked her through each woman. Jennifer, 2015-2016. Secretary. Got pregnant. Richard paid for an abortion, then fired her and paid her $50,000 to disappear. Lisa, 2016-2017. Client's daughter, 22 years old. Richard love-bombed her for 6 months, then ghosted her when she got too attached. Amanda, 2017-2018. Another secretary. Richard loaned her $30,000 for her mother's cancer treatment, then used the debt to manipulate and control her sexually. Rachel, early 2018. Overlapped with you briefly. He dumped her the moment he met you. Sophia was crying, shaking her head. Sophia. I'm so stupid. Me. No, you're not stupid. You're 28 years old. He's 61. He had all the power. He knew exactly what he was doing. Sophia looked at me, with tears streaming down her face. Sophia. Why are you showing me this? Why are you helping me? Me. Because I'm angry, and anger needs a direction. Sophia. I don't understand. Me. Sophia, my husband has been stealing from our joint accounts to fund his affairs. He spent over $400,000 on you and the others. That's my money. Money I earned, money I saved. Sophia, horrified. Oh my God. Me. So here's what's going to happen. You and I are going to work together, and we're going to take everything from him. Sophia, scared. I can't. He'll destroy me. He has lawyers. He has money. Me. So do I. Better lawyers. More money. And something he doesn't have. Evidence. I pulled out another folder. Much thicker. Me. 3 years of surveillance, photos, bank statements, recorded conversations, witness testimony, text messages, emails, everything. Sophia stared at the folder. Me. With your testimony and this evidence, we can destroy him in court, take his money, his business, his reputation, everything. Sophia. But what about me? The baby? I don't have money for a lawyer. I don't have anything. Me. You'll move into my guest house. Free rent. I'll pay for all your medical expenses, prenatal care, delivery, everything. Sophia. Why? Why would you do that? Me. Because you're carrying evidence. A living, breathing DNA sample that will prove Richard's infidelity beyond any doubt. Sophia. You want me to keep the baby? Me. That's your choice. But if you do, Richard will owe child support for 18 years, and I'll make sure he pays every penny." Sophia sat there for a long time. Finally, she said, "What do I have to do?" Me. "First, you don't disappear. You stay visible. You stay problematic." Sophia. "He blocked me. He won't talk to me." Me. "Good. That shows abandonment. Judges hate that." I pulled out a legal pad. Started writing. Me. "Second, you keep records. Every attempt to contact him, every blocked call, every ignored email, document everything." Sophia. "Okay." Me. "Third, when the baby is born, we do a paternity test immediately. Court-ordered, official, undeniable." Sophia. "He'll refuse." Me. "He can't. Court will force him." Me. "Here's the timeline. 1. June-August 2022. You stay here. We prepare. We document. 2. August 2022. Baby is born. We get DNA test. 3. September 2022. I file for divorce with evidence of adultery, financial fraud, and abandonment. 4. October 2022. You file paternity suit and child support claim. 5 November 2022. We destroy him in court. Sophia looked at me with wide eyes. Sophia. "You've thought this all through." Me. "For 3 years." Sophia. "You knew about me that whole time." Me. "Yes." Sophia. "Why didn't you stop it?" Me. "Because I needed him to think he was winning. I needed him to feel safe, so when I struck, it would destroy him completely." Sophia whispered, "You're terrifying." Me. "No, dear, I'm patient. There's a difference." Sophia thought for another moment. Then she said, "Okay, let's destroy him." Sophia moved into my guest house the next day. Richard had no idea. It was surreal. My husband's pregnant mistress living in my backyard. But you know what? We became friends. Not at first. At first, it was tense, awkward. But over time, I saw she wasn't a villain. She was a victim, too. We'd sit in the kitchen, drinking tea, herbal for her, regular for me. Sophia told me everything, how Richard pursued her aggressively at work, how he said I was cold and didn't understand him, how he promised to divorce me soon, how he love-bombed her with gifts and attention, how he made her feel special, chosen, loved, and then how he abandoned her the moment she became inconvenient. I realized he was a predator, always had been, and I'd been blind to it for 35 years. While Sophia lived with me, we prepared for war. I hired the best divorce attorney in the state. Cost $15,000 retainer. Tom compiled his final evidence report, 400-plus pages. I transferred money into a separate account, my inheritance from my mother. Richard couldn't touch it. I made copies of everything, in case Richard tried to destroy evidence. I paid for Sophia's prenatal care, regular OB appointments, ultrasounds, everything documented. Sophia went to therapy. I paid. I went to therapy too, processing 35 years of lies. We supported each other. Meanwhile, Richard came home every night, oblivious. He'd kiss me on the cheek. "How was your day, Maggie?" I'd smile. Productive. If only he knew how productive. August 20th, 2022. Sophia went into labor at 2 a.m. I drove her to the hospital. Richard was home, asleep. He had no idea. Labor lasted 14 hours. I stayed with Sophia the whole time, held her hand, coached her breathing. At 3:47 p.m., Emma Grace Wilson was born, 6 pounds, 8 ounces, healthy, perfect. Sophia held her baby and cried. Sophia, she's beautiful. Me, she really is. Sophia looked at me. Thank you for everything. I couldn't have done this without you. Me, we're not done yet, dear. This is just the beginning. I'd arranged everything in advance. A DNA lab technician came to the hospital that afternoon, took a sample from baby Emma. I'd already provided Richard's DNA from his toothbrush at home. Yes, I planned ahead. Results came back 72 hours later, 99.9% match. Richard Wilson was the father, perfect, September 15th, 2022, Everything was ready. Divorce papers, drafted and ready to file. Evidence folders, 400 plus pages compiled by Tom. DNA results, confirmed and certified. Paternity suit, drafted and ready to file. Financial forensics, all accounts traced. Witness list, prepared. Tom, Sophia, the other women agreed to testify. But I didn't tell Richard yet. I wanted one more thing. September 15th, 2022. Our 35th wedding anniversary. I made his favorite meal, ribeye steak, garlic mashed potatoes, roasted asparagus, apple pie for dessert, candles on the table, nice wine. Richard came home, saw the setup, smiled. Richard: Maggie, this is wonderful. You didn't have to do all this. Me: 35 years, of course I did. We sat down. We ate. We talked about memories. He told stories about our early years, laughed about our first apartment, reminisced about vacations we'd taken. Richard: You know, Maggie, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Me, smiling: Am I? Richard: Absolutely. I don't know what I'd do without you. Me: Well, you're about to find out. Richard: What? Me: Nothing, dear. Just a joke. More wine? He had no idea that in 72 hours his entire life would implode. September 18th, 2022, 7 a.m. Richard left for work, kissed me goodbye like always. Richard: Love you, Maggie. Me: Love you too, dear. He left. I waited until I heard his car pull out of the driveway. Then I picked up my phone. Me: Tom, it's time. Send the process server. 7:30 a.m. Richard arrived at his office, got his coffee, sat down at his desk. At 7:45 a.m., a process server walked in. Server: Richard Wilson. Richard: Yes? Server: You've been served, and handed him a stack of documents. What Richard received: divorce petition, citing adultery, financial fraud, abandonment, restraining order, barring him from joint accounts, subpoena for all financial records, paternity suit from Sophia Chen with DNA results attached, child support claim, demanding $3,000 month, evidence summary, 400 pages, photos, bank statements, everything. IRS notification, investigation into potential tax fraud. I'd reported him for claiming false business expenses. Richard's hands shook as he read. Then he grabbed his phone, called me. Richard, screaming: What the hell is this? Me, calm: Divorce papers, Richard. Didn't you read them? Richard: You're divorcing me? After 35 years? Me: No, dear. I'm divorcing a cheater, a liar, a thief, and an abandoned father. There's a difference. Richard: This is insane. We can talk about this. Me: We're past talking. Check your email. I've sent you the evidence summary, photos, bank statements, recordings, DNA results, everything. Richard: Silence. Then, voice shaking: DNA results. Me: Oh yes, Emma Grace Wilson, born August 20th. She has your eyes, Richard. Congratulations, it's a girl. Richard: Where is Sophia? Where is she? Me: She's here, Richard. She's been here since June, living in our guest house. Richard: What? Me: You abandoned her. I took her in. We've been planning this for months. Richard, realizing: You've been working together? Me: Yes. Turns out we have a lot in common. We both hate you. Richard, voice breaking: Maggie, please. We can fix this. I'll do anything. Me: Anything? Richard: Anything. Me: Good. Sign the divorce papers. Give me 75% of marital assets. Pay full child support for Emma, and walk away quietly. Richard: 75%? That's robbery. Me: No, Richard. Robbery is what you did. Stealing $400,000 to spend on mistresses. Shall we let a judge decide? I'm sure the IRS investigation will help your case. Richard, defeated: You've thought of everything. Me: I had 3 years, Richard. What did you think I was doing? Baking cookies? Richard: Fine, I'll sign. Me: Smart choice. My lawyer will send the papers this afternoon. You have 48 hours. Richard: and if I don't? Me: then I release everything to the media. Photos, recordings, all 5 affairs. Your clients will leave. Your partners will force you out. You'll be ruined. Richard, quietly: you've already won, haven't you? Me: yes, Richard, I have. I hung up, but I wasn't done. Because Richard still had one thing I wanted to take: his reputation. I called every single business partner he had, every client, every mutual friend, and I sent them the evidence folders, photos of Richard with all 5 women, bank statements showing he'd embezzled company funds for personal affairs, recordings of him promising to take care of Sophia's pregnancy, DNA results proving he'd abandoned his own child, everything. Within 2 weeks, his partners demanded he sell his shares and resign. Clients canceled contracts, bad optics. Employees started quitting. Company stock dropped 40%. Mutual friends stopped calling him. His golf club quietly asked him to leave. Invitations stopped coming. He became a pariah. He signed the divorce papers. He agreed to 75% asset split. He agreed to $3,000-month child support. He had no choice. But I wanted one final moment. October 15th, 2022. I threw a party, a freedom party. Invited 50 people, friends, family, neighbors, everyone who'd witnessed my perfect marriage. I stood in front of everyone and said, "Thank you all for coming. I want to address something. Yes, Richard and I are divorcing. Yes, he cheated. But that's not why you're here. You're here because I want you to know I'm not a victim. I never was. For 3 years, I knew everything, and I let him think he was winning. While I built a case, while I planned, while I waited. And now, I have the house. I have 75% of our assets. I have my freedom. And Richard has an apartment, a destroyed reputation, and 18 years of child support payments." The room went silent. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping, cheering. My sister hugged me. "I'm so proud of you." My friends: "You're a legend." One woman said, "You're my hero. I wish I'd done that to my ex. It felt good." That was 3 years ago. Today, I'm 65 years old. The divorce was finalized in March 2023. My settlement, the house, worth $1.2 million. 75% of all liquid assets, $4.5 million. Half of his pension, my freedom. Richard's settlement, a 2-bedroom apartment, $1.5 million before taxes and legal fees. Child support obligations for 15 more years, a destroyed reputation. Sophia still lives in the guest house. We're close friends now. Emma is 3 years old, beautiful, smart, happy. Richard has court-ordered visitation, 1 weekend per month. It's awkward. He tries, but Emma barely knows him. She calls me Aunt Maggie. Sophia says I'm the grandmother Emma actually knows. Last year, Sophia started dating someone new. His name is David. He's 34, kind, stable, age-appropriate. He treats Emma like his own daughter. I'm happy for her. She deserves it. Me? I'm single, traveling, living. I went to Italy last summer, Paris in the fall, planning a trip to Japan next spring. I bought a convertible, cherry red, always wanted one. I volunteer at a women's shelter, helping survivors of financial abuse. I'm free. People ask me, "Margaret, do you regret staying for so long? Don't you wish you'd left sooner?" And I tell them, if I'd acted impulsively, I would have gotten less. If I'd let my emotions control me, Richard would have won. But I didn't. I stayed calm. I stayed strategic. I stayed patient. And I took everything. Revenge isn't about screaming or crying or making a scene. Revenge is about planning. If you're going through something similar, if you've been lied to, cheated on, betrayed, listen to me. Don't act out of anger. Don't confront them immediately. Document everything, gather evidence, build a case, get a good lawyer, and when the time is right, strike. Because the best revenge isn't just leaving, it's taking everything they thought they'd keep. Richard thought he could have it all, the wife, the mistresses, the money, the respect, but he forgot something important. I'm an accountant. And accountants are very good at math. He took $400,000 from me. I took $4.5 million from him. I'd say we're even. Actually, no. I'd say I won. This story is based on real events. Names and details have been changed. Margaret is now 65 and living her best life traveling the world. Sophia is 31, raising Emma, now 3, with Margaret's help and her new partner David. Richard is 68, living in a small apartment and paying child support. Some people say Margaret was cruel for waiting so long, but she wasn't cruel. She was strategic, and sometimes that's what it takes to win. The lesson? Document everything. Get evidence. Be patient. And when you strike, make it count. If you're experiencing financial abuse in a relationship, National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. Women's Law, free legal help, www.womenslaw.org. Financial Abuse Toolkit, www.nnndv.org. Would you have confronted him immediately or waited like Margaret? Next video. I pretended to have dementia for 2 years to test my family. What I discovered made me change my will. My life changed forever on that June afternoon when Sophia stood trembling on my doorstep. I remember studying her face, the mascara-streaked cheeks, the dark circles under her eyes, the look of absolute terror when she realized whose house she'd come to. In that moment, I made a decision that shocked even me. I've replayed that scene in my mind 1,000 times. What if I'd slammed the door? What if I'd screamed at her, called her names, thrown her off my property? It would have felt good for about 5 minutes. Then Richard would have continued his life, perhaps found mistress number 6, and I'd have been left with nothing but bitterness. Instead, I saw an opportunity, a strategic alliance, a chance to reclaim everything that was rightfully mine. When I invited her in, the look on her face was priceless. Complete disbelief. She stood frozen on my doorstep for nearly 30 seconds, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. I remember thinking, she's trying to figure out if this is a trap. And in a way it was, just not for her. The first hour we spent together was awkward beyond description. We sat in my living room, this young pregnant woman and I, with 35 years of my marriage hanging between us. She could barely look at me. Her hands shook so badly, she spilled tea on my carpet. She kept apologizing for the spill, for the affair, for showing up at my door. I remember her asking, voice barely above a whisper, "Are you going to tell Richard I was here?" And I replied, "Not yet. That information has value." That's when she started to understand. I wasn't acting from emotion. This wasn't about forgiveness or revenge in the traditional sense. This was about strategy, assets, leverage, the language of power. When I showed her the folder with the other women, her entire world collapsed. I watched it happen in real time, the shock, the denial, the devastating realization that she wasn't special, that she was just another in a series, that the man who promised her everything had told those same lies many times before. She cried for nearly an hour, not delicate tears, but body-shaking sobs. I sat beside her, not offering comfort, just presence, witness to her pain, and in that shared space of female betrayal, something shifted between us. "How did you know?" she finally asked, wiping her eyes. "How did you know about all of them? About me?" I told her about Tom, about the 3 years of surveillance, about the evidence I'd been gathering, about my plan. "Why didn't you just divorce him when you found out?" she asked. "Because I wanted everything," I replied. "Not just half, everything." The look of respect that dawned on her face was something I'll never forget. It wasn't warmth or friendship, not yet. It was recognition, one strategic mind recognizing another. Our alliance didn't form instantly. That first day she agreed to my plan, but left still suspicious of my motives. She moved into the guest house 3 days later, bringing 2 suitcases and a box of prenatal vitamins. Richard was on a business trip with clients, The perfect time. For the first week, we avoided each other. She stayed in the guest house. I stayed in the main house. We communicated by text, brief and practical messages about groceries and doctor appointments. But pregnancy is difficult. One night, around 2 a.m., I heard crying from the guest house. I found Sophia on the bathroom floor, cramping, terrified she was losing the baby. I drove her to the emergency room, waited with her for 4 hours, held her hand while the doctor confirmed everything was fine, just normal pregnancy discomfort. On the drive home, exhausted and relieved, something changed. The walls between victim and accomplice, between betrayed wife and mistress, began to crumble. Not completely, but enough. "Thank you," she said as we pulled into the driveway. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," I replied. "We're in this together now." From that night forward, we began to talk, really talk. Over breakfast, during afternoon walks, good for her pregnancy. In the evenings on the patio, she told me about her family in Taiwan, their conservative values, how they'd disowned her when they learned of the pregnancy. About her education, her dreams of starting her own business someday. About how Richard had seemed like a dream at first, attentive, generous, promising her the world. And I told her about my life, my career as an accountant, the years building Richard's business, the infertility treatments that failed year after year, the life I thought I had versus the reality I discovered. Two women from different generations, different backgrounds, different sides of the same betrayal, finding common ground in the wreckage one man had created. The weeks passed. Richard continued his oblivious routine. Work, home, dinner, bed. Sometimes he'd call to say he was working late. Sophia and I would exchange glances across the kitchen table. We knew exactly what he was doing, searching for Mistress number 6. He had no idea that numbers 4 and 5 were sitting in his own home, plotting his downfall. One evening, Richard called to say he'd be home around 9 p.m. Sophia and I were making dinner together. She'd turned out to be an excellent cook. "Let me guess," she said after I hung up. "Working late?" I nodded. "You know he's probably at a bar right now, right? Looking for my replacement." Her voice was steady, matter of fact. The hurt was still there, but now buried under purpose. "I know," I replied, "and that's exactly what we need him to do. The more distracted he is, the better." Our days fell into a routine. Mornings. I'd make breakfast for all of us. Richard never questioned why I was cooking more food. Sophia would eat in the guest house. After Richard left, we'd meet to review our plan, update our evidence files, consult with my lawyer. Afternoons. Sophia would rest. The pregnancy was taking a toll. I'd manage the household, run errands, maintain the facade of the perfect wife. We'd document every dollar Richard spent, every call he made, every lie he told. Evenings. If Richard was home, I'd play my role. If he wasn't, Sophia and I would have dinner together. We'd talk, plan, sometimes even laugh. It was during those evening conversations that our alliance deepened into something unexpected: friendship. One night, Sophia asked the question that had clearly been bothering her for weeks. "Margaret, why don't you hate me? I slept with your husband. I wanted him to leave you. I thought I loved him." I considered this carefully. For a long time, I did hate you. Or rather, I hated the idea of you. The faceless woman who was taking my husband. But then I saw the photos. I heard the recordings. I realized something important. What? We were both victims. Different sides, same coin. But I chose to be with him. You didn't choose to be betrayed. Did you really choose? A 25-year-old secretary pursued by her 58-year-old boss? A man with wealth, power, connections? A man who'd perfected his predatory pattern over years? Did you really have a fair choice? She was silent for a long time. I still feel responsible. Take responsibility for your choices, but don't take responsibility for his. He was the married one. He made vows to me. He broke them. 5 times. Another evening, deeper into her pregnancy, Sophia confessed another fear. What if I'm a terrible mother? What if I can't do this? I reached across the table, took her hand. You won't be alone. I'll help you. Why? She asked again, a question she returned to often. Why are you doing all this? At first it was strategic. You were evidence, leverage, but now... I paused, surprised by my own feelings. Now, I want to help you because you deserve better. Both of you do. I nodded toward her growing belly. July turned to August. Sophia entered her 8th month. The nursery in the guest house was prepared. Crib, changing table, rocking chair. Everything white and mint green. She didn't want to know the baby's gender. Richard remained completely unaware. Sometimes he'd comment on my good mood or ask why I was smiling so much lately. I'd say something about a new book club or yoga class. He never investigated further. His self-absorption was our greatest ally. 2 weeks before her due date, Sophia and I finalized our timeline. DNA test immediately after birth. Divorce filing 1 month later. Maximum impact. Are you nervous? I asked her one evening. About the birth? Terrified. About facing Richard. She considered this. No, not anymore. I was at first. I was scared of him, of what he could do. But now... She gestured around us at the evidence files, the legal documents, the months of preparation. Now I know we're stronger. Yes, I said, we are. The birth itself was unexpected. 2 weeks early. Middle of the night. Sophia knocking on my bedroom door, face contorted with pain. It's time. The drive to the hospital was tense. Between contractions, Sophia gasped. What if something goes wrong? What if the baby... Everything will be fine, I assured her, hoping I was right. I'll be with you the whole time. And I was. Through 14 hours of labor. Through the pushing, the screaming, the moments of doubt, I held her hand, wiped her forehead, told her she could do it. When Emma Grace Wilson finally arrived, red-faced, angry, perfect, Sophia wept, and to my surprise, so did I. The nurse placed Emma in Sophia's arms. Look at her, Sophia whispered. She's perfect. Yes, I agreed. She is. Later, when Sophia was sleeping and Emma was in the nursery, I stood at the window looking out at the night. I thought about the path that had brought me here, the betrayal, the pain, the unlikely alliance. 3 days later, with both Sophia and Emma settled in the guest house, we received the DNA results. 99.9% match. Richard Wilson was the father. Now we had everything we needed. Are you ready? I asked Sophia that evening. Once we file these papers, there's no going back. She looked down at Emma, sleeping in her arms. Then back at me. I'm ready. We spent September finalizing the details. Richard, still oblivious, went about his life. Our 35th wedding anniversary came, the last one we'd ever have. I made his favorite meal, played the perfect wife one last time. It was almost poetic. 3 days later, everything was in place. The process server was ready. The evidence was compiled. The papers were prepared. Sophia and Emma were safely established in the guest house, invisible to Richard, who never entered that part of the property. That morning, Richard kissed me goodbye. Told me he loved me. Left for work. For the last time as my husband, I waited until his car disappeared down the street. Then I picked up my phone and called Tom. It's time. The rest of that day unfolded exactly as we'd planned. The process server arrived at Richard's office at 7:45 a.m. By 8:03 a.m., my phone was ringing. Richard's name on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered with perfect calm. His rage was explosive, incoherent at first, shouting, cursing, demanding explanations. I let him exhaust himself before I responded, my voice measured and cool. Divorce papers, Richard? Didn't you read them? When I told him about Emma, about Sophia living in our guest house, about our alliance, his shock was palpable. The silence on the phone stretched for nearly 30 seconds before he managed to speak again, his voice now shaking. You've been working together? Yes, I replied. Turns out we have a lot in common. We both hate you. His negotiation attempts were predictable. First begging, then bargaining, then threats. I countered each with the cold precision of someone who had anticipated every move. When I laid out my terms, 75% of assets, full child support, immediate signature, he balked initially. But the mention of the IRS investigation deflated his resistance. By the end of the call, Richard Wilson, master manipulator, serial cheater, predatory boss, was reduced to a single, devastating realization. You've already won, haven't you? Yes, Richard, I have. I hung up feeling oddly empty. Not triumphant, not vindicated, simply done. 3 years of planning, of pretending, of gathering evidence, culminating in a 15-minute phone call. It seemed almost anticlimactic. Then I heard a small sound behind me. Sophia was standing in the doorway, Emma in her arms. Is it done? She asked. I nodded. It's done. How do you feel? I considered this. Free, she smiled. Good. Me too. Over the next 2 weeks, Richard's world collapsed with astonishing speed. His business partners, confronted with evidence of his embezzlement and predatory behavior toward female employees, demanded his immediate resignation. Clients, shocked by the revelations, canceled contracts. His personal reputation, carefully cultivated over decades, disintegrated. Through it all, Richard made only one attempt to see Sophia and Emma. He came to the house unannounced, demanding to see his child. I stood in the doorway, blocking his path. She's not your child, Richard. You made that clear when you told Sophia to take care of it. She's Sophia's child. You're just the DNA donor and the check writer. I have rights, he insisted. You have court-ordered visitation rights that will begin once all papers are signed. Until then, you have nothing. He left, defeated again. The divorce proceedings moved with unprecedented speed, thanks to Richard's reluctance to fight the overwhelming evidence against him. By October, it was settled. I received the house, 75% of all assets, half his pension. Richard received what remained, a fraction of the empire he'd built, much of it on my unpaid labor. The Freedom Party was my idea, a declaration not just to Richard, but to the community that had witnessed our marriage for 3 decades. I wanted everyone to know. I wasn't a victim. I was a strategist. 50 guests arrived, curious and supportive. When I stood to speak, the room fell silent. I want you to know, I'm not a victim. I never was. For 3 years, I knew everything. And I let him think he was winning, while I built a case, while I planned, while I waited. And now? I have the house. I have 75% of our assets. I have my freedom. And Richard? Richard has an apartment, a destroyed reputation, and 18 years of child support payments. The applause was startling in its enthusiasm. Later, women approached me privately, sharing their own stories of betrayal, of settlements that left them struggling, of regrets about not fighting harder. I realized my story had touched something deep and universal, the desire for justice in a system often stacked against women, especially those who've invested decades in marriages and families. That night after the guests left, Sophia and I sat on the patio with glasses of wine, her first since before pregnancy. What happens now? She asked. Now we live, I said simply. The next 3 years unfolded in ways I couldn't have predicted. Sophia and Emma remained in the guest house, but our relationship evolved. What began as an alliance of convenience transformed into family of choice. I became Aunt Maggie to Emma, a role I cherished more than I could have imagined. Watching Emma grow, her first smile, first steps, first words, filled a space in my heart I thought had calcified decades ago after the failed fertility treatments. Not as a mother, but as something equally meaningful. A mentor, a guardian, a constant presence. Richard's court-ordered monthly visitations were awkward affairs. He tried, in his way, to connect with Emma, brought expensive toys, took staged photos. But a weekend each month cannot build a genuine relationship, especially with a man who fundamentally doesn't understand connection beyond possession. Meanwhile, I rediscovered myself, traveled to places I'd always wanted to see but had postponed for Richard's convenience. Started volunteering at a women's shelter, using my accounting skills to help other women untangle financial abuse. Bought the red convertible I'd always wanted, but Richard had dismissed as impractical and attention-seeking. Sophia blossomed too, enrolled in business courses, started dating again, cautiously at first, then with growing confidence. When she met David, kind, age-appropriate, genuinely good, I felt a protective satisfaction. She deserved this second chance. The three of us, 4, including Emma, created something unexpected from the ashes of betrayal. A chosen family, built on honesty, mutual support, and the shared experience of reclaiming our lives from a man who thought he owned us. People often ask if I regret not leaving Richard sooner. The answer is always no. Timing was everything. Patience was everything. If I'd acted impulsively, I would have gotten less. If I'd let my emotions control me, Richard would have won. But I didn't. I stayed calm. I stayed strategic. I stayed patient. And I took everything. Revenge isn't about screaming or crying or making a scene. Revenge is about planning. If you're going through something similar, if you've been lied to, cheated on, betrayed, listen to me. Don't act out of anger. Don't confront them immediately. Document everything, gather evidence, build a case, get a good lawyer, and when the time is right, strike. Because the best revenge isn't just leaving, it's taking everything they thought they'd keep. That's the lesson I share with the women at the shelter where I volunteer. Women whose husbands controlled the bank accounts, put assets in family members' names, threatened to leave them penniless. I teach them financial literacy, how to trace hidden assets, how to document patterns of control, how to build a case. Many ask if my story is unusual. It isn't. The details may differ, but the pattern is remarkably consistent. Men who use money as control, who build empires on their wives' uncompensated labor, who expect loyalty while offering none, who believe they're entitled to everything, the stable marriage, the exciting affairs, the family reputation, the business success. What's unusual isn't Richard's behavior. It's that I had the resources, the knowledge, and the patience to fight back effectively. Not everyone does. That's why I volunteer, to share what I've learned, to help other women reclaim what's rightfully theirs. I often think about what would have happened if I'd confronted Richard the night I discovered Sophia's texts. He would have denied it, minimized it, made me feel crazy for suspecting him. Classic gaslighting. And if I'd pushed, insisted, threatened divorce, he would have hidden assets, claimed business losses, engaged expensive lawyers to drag out proceedings for years. I'd have been lucky to get 50% of what was visible, let alone the hidden accounts I discovered during my investigation. Instead, I played the long game, let him believe he was winning while I built an airtight case. A case so strong that when I finally struck, he had no choice but to surrender. Some call my approach cold, calculated, even cruel. Perhaps it was. But what was the alternative? To act on emotion and lose everything I'd spent decades building? To walk away with less than I deserved? To let him continue his predatory pattern with woman after woman? No. I chose strategy over emotion, patience over impulse, and I won. The morning of the final divorce hearing remains crystal clear in my memory. December 12, 2022, crisp winter day. I wore a navy blue suit, pearl earrings, minimal makeup, professional, dignified, in control. Richard arrived separately, gray suit, expensive watch, hair freshly cut. But his eyes were hollow, defeated. He'd aged a decade in 3 months. The proceedings were brief, almost anticlimactic. All terms had been negotiated and agreed upon. The judge reviewed the settlement, asked if we understood and accepted the terms. 2 signatures, 35 years of marriage, dissolved in 20 minutes. As we left the courtroom, Richard attempted one last conversation. "Maggie," he said, voice low, "did you ever love me at all?" I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time without pretense or strategy. And I told him the truth. "I loved the man I thought you were. That man never existed." I walked away without looking back. Outside the courthouse, Sophia waited with Emma in the car. 3 months old, sleeping peacefully in her car seat, oblivious to the drama surrounding her existence. Sophia looked at me questioningly as I got in. "It's done," I said, legally, finally. She reached over, squeezed my hand. "How do you feel?" I considered this carefully. Lighter, like I've set down something heavy I've been carrying for years. We drove home, my home, legally and solely mine now, in comfortable silence. That evening, we opened a bottle of champagne. A small celebration, just the two of us. 2 women who'd started as adversaries and ended as allies, as family. "To freedom," I toasted. "To karma," Sophia added with a smile. The financial settlement was exactly as negotiated. The house, 75% of liquid assets, half the pension. In total, approximately $4.5 million, plus ongoing child support for Emma. Richard received what remained, roughly $1.5 million before taxes and legal fees. He moved into a 2-bedroom apartment across town, took a consulting position with a former competitor at a fraction of his previous salary. His professional reputation was in tatters, his social circle decimated. The man who had everything now had almost nothing. Was it fair? Perhaps not. Was it justice? Absolutely. The first year after the divorce was one of adjustment, learning to live without the performance of a marriage, waking up each morning without the weight of deception, both his and mine, rebuilding my identity not as Mrs. Richard Wilson, but simply as Margaret. Sophia and Emma remained in the guest house, now legally their home for as long as they wanted it. We fell into a comfortable routine, morning coffee together while Emma played, weekend brunches, holiday celebrations, movie nights. For Emma's first birthday, we threw a small party. Richard attended. His court-ordered visitation happened to fall that weekend. He brought an extravagant gift, a designer outfit Emma would outgrow in months. Tried too hard to be the doting father, taking staged photos for social media. Watching him perform fatherhood, I felt nothing but pity. He still didn't understand that relationships aren't possessions to be claimed or discarded at convenience. That trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. That actions have consequences. Emma, predictably, cried when he tried to hold her. She barely knew this strange man who appeared one weekend a month, who smiled too widely and spoke too loudly. She reached for Sophia, for security, for the mother who was constant and present. Later, after Richard left, Sophia found me in the kitchen. "Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing?" she asked. "For Emma, I mean, keeping her from having a full-time father?" I considered this carefully. Richard chose not to be a father when he told you to take care of it. He chose his convenience over his child. What we did was create a stable, loving home for Emma, with a mother who adores her. That's more than many children have. Sophia nodded, satisfied. "You're right. We did the right thing." "We did the necessary thing," I corrected gently. "For all of us." The second year after the divorce brought unexpected developments. Sophia, with my encouragement, enrolled in business school. She'd always wanted to start her own interior design business, and now, with financial support and stable housing, she could pursue that dream. I watched her transform from a wounded victim to a confident entrepreneur. She completed coursework during Emma's naps, built a portfolio in the evenings, networked on weekends. By Emma's second birthday, Sophia had secured her first clients. Small projects at first, a living room redesign, a nursery for expectant parents. But her talent was undeniable. Her Asian-influenced minimalist aesthetic found a market among young professionals in our area. Within 6 months, She had a waiting list. Meanwhile, Richard's life continued its downward trajectory. The consulting position ended after a year. Mutual decision, according to the press release. But Tom's sources confirmed he'd been asked to leave after inappropriate behavior with a female colleague. Old patterns die hard. His monthly visitations with Emma remained awkward, perfunctory. He'd arrive with expensive gifts, but no understanding of her changing needs or interests. He'd attempt to engage her for Instagram photos, then spend most of the visit on his phone. Emma, now able to speak in simple sentences, began asking, "When Daddy go home?" Halfway through each visit, Sophia met David at a client's housewarming party. He was 34, a pediatric nurse, divorced with no children. Their relationship developed slowly, cautiously. Sophia, understandably wary after her experience with Richard, kept him at arm's length initially. But David was patient, respectful of boundaries, genuinely interested in both Sophia and Emma as people rather than possessions. The first time David came to the house for dinner, I observed him carefully. The way he asked Sophia about her business without mansplaining. The way he got down on Emma's level to play, following her lead rather than imposing his ideas. The way he helped clean up afterward without being asked. Later, after he left, Sophia asked my opinion. "He seems kind," I said, "and that's rarer than it should be." She smiled. "Yes, he is." By Emma's 3rd birthday, David was a regular presence in our unconventional household. He'd come over for dinners, weekend outings, movie nights. Emma adored him, running to the door shouting, "David! David!" whenever he arrived. He never tried to replace Richard, always referred to him respectfully as "your dad" when speaking to Emma. But he provided something Richard never could: consistent, reliable affection without an agenda. As for me, I embraced my newfound freedom with enthusiasm. I traveled, Italy, France, Japan, places I'd always wanted to see but had postponed for Richard's convenience. I bought the red convertible I'd always wanted. I expanded my volunteer work at the women's shelter, eventually joining their board of directors. Did I date? Occasionally. Casual dinners, theater outings, nothing serious. After 35 years with Richard, I enjoyed my independence too much to rush into another relationship, perhaps someday, with the right person. But for now, I was complete on my own. Richard made one last attempt at manipulation on Emma's 3rd birthday. He arrived unannounced the day before the planned party, bearing an extravagant dollhouse, custom-built, hand-painted, easily worth thousands. Too large for Sophia's guest house, clearly intended for his daughter's home, meaning my house. "I thought we could set it up in the living room," he suggested, all innocence. For Emma. I recognized the strategy immediately. A physical presence in my home, a reason to visit outside his scheduled weekends, a way to reassert himself in our lives. "How thoughtful," I replied coolly. "Unfortunately, there's no space for it here, but perhaps it would fit in your apartment? For when Emma visits you?" His face fell, then hardened. "Still playing games, Maggie?" "No games, Richard. Just boundaries." He left with the dollhouse. Later that week, Tom reported Richard had listed it for sale online. Emma's actual birthday party was perfect without Richard's interference. Small, intimate, filled with genuine affection. Sophia, David, me, a few of Emma's little friends from playgroup, homemade cake, simple presents, real smiles, not posed for social media. Emma, surrounded by people who truly loved her, who showed up consistently, who prioritized her needs above their own agendas. Watching her blow out her candles, I felt a profound gratitude. Not for Richard's betrayal, I would never be grateful for that pain, but for the unexpected family that had emerged from its ashes, for Sophia's friendship, for Emma's presence in my life, for the authentic connections that had replaced the performative marriage I'd endured for so long. Later that evening, after the guests had left and Emma was in bed, Sophia, David, and I sat on the patio with glasses of wine. The conversation turned, as it occasionally did, to the journey that had brought us here. "I still can't believe you invited me in that day," Sophia said. "I was so sure you were going to kill me." I laughed. I considered it. For about 3 seconds. What changed your mind? I realized we were both victims of the same man. Different sides, same coin. David, who knew our full story, shook his head in admiration. I still think you're the most strategic person I've ever met, Margaret. I smiled, sipping my wine. Not strategic, patient. There's a difference. As the evening wore on, I excused myself, leaving the young couple to their conversation. Walking through my house, truly mine now, in every sense, I felt a profound contentment. Not triumph over Richard, not even vindication. Simply peace. The peace of a life reclaimed, rebuilt, and now enjoyed on my own terms. Richard took $400,000 from me over the years of his affairs. I took $4.5 million from him in the divorce. Some might call that excessive. I call it mathematics. He thought he could have everything: the devoted wife, the exciting mistresses, the successful business, the sterling reputation. But he forgot something crucial. I was watching. I was waiting. I was calculating. And in the end, I won.